Welcome to the Climate Gap Quick Cuts, the podcast for busy people building climate solutions. We spotlight founders, builders, operators, and investors doing the hard work behind real progress. I'm Ben, co-founder of LMC. We connect climate tech companies with the people who make scale possible. Let's get into it. Today, we're flipping the script on corporate real estate. Everyone's chasing utility savings, but what if we've been optimizing the wrong line item? According to the JLL 330-300 model, energy costs might be $3 per square foot, but space and people, that's $30 and $300. So why does all the focus stay on the smallest bucket? My guest today is Shahar Peleg, former VP of Product at Prescriptive Data and LG Electronics, who spent his career turning complex smart building systems into outcomes that matter. If you want to stop reporting small wins and start unlocking big impact, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Great to have you here. Could you kick us off with a quick introduction to you and your background?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Ben. First of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm excited to be here. I've been around data, IoT, and specifically smart buildings, both commercial, residential, probably most of my professional career. I've mostly been with tech startups from early days, taking ideas, making them into viable businesses and growing revenues, but also with larger corporates looking to drive innovation in the smart building space. I'm always trying to focus on delivering tangible outcomes to the users first and foremost, trying to find that right balance between, in that triangle, between understanding the pain points, the challenges of the users, the technology that is the enabling technology under the solutions, and the different business aspects of delivering an ROI to our users. Excited to be here. Looking forward to this conversation.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. So one of the things that I wanted us to talk about, energy wins are easy to quantify, but do you believe space reconfiguration, employee experience delivers bottom line impact?
Yeah, absolutely. But, let me first clarify. I'm a big supporter of energy optimization. I've been in that space numerous times for many years. So I'm a strong believer in energy wins, that they're important, particularly from the sustainability perspective. However, when we look at, corporates specifically, what are typically the top two spends in a corporate expense chart? First, it's human resources, and typically second is real estate. Now, if the productivity of your people is increased, your bottom line is positively impacted as well. Now, on the other hand, if your people's productivity decreases, that negatively impacts your bottom line. Now, interestingly, I think it's commonly accepted that real estate has an impact on employee experience, and employee experience in turn impacts productivity. However, as opposed to energy wins, the challenge here is that it's much harder to actually optimize that, to measure it and quantify it. So it's harder for people to grasp it and understand it as compared to energy wins. But yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Tell me, what's your approach to winning executive buy-in to prioritize space utilization analytics and employee-focused improvements over straightforward energy savings, and what arguments tend to resonate the most?
Yeah, but first let's just to clarify, space utilization is just one parameter when we look at the bigger picture of space optimization, right? So when we talk about space optimization, we talk about, or we mean, right sizing your space to your needs, placing it in the optimal location to draw top talent and to retain your talent, and of course, as I mentioned before, to make your people, your employees, the most productive for the space to support the highest productivity possible. So yeah, to win executive buy-in in this regard is sometimes a challenge, but you can start by just asking a couple of simple questions. For example, just ask them, how much are your real estate costs, your maintenance costs, your catering costs, your cleaning costs, not just in general, but specifically, per actual person coming into the office, per your actual utilization. You usually get after that question. And then, you should follow that up with, okay, so let's assume you do know those costs, but do you know that you're spending these costs, where it matters, that, spending this money actually makes a difference. That again usually gets the gears turn, the wheels rolling, the gears shifting there, and usually there aren't really good answers. And if there are answers, they're usually based on gut feelings and rather than data. So when you ask them, okay, so show me where that data is, you don't usually get a good answer for that. So that makes them understand that they're running their business based on gut feelings rather than data, which is not the right thing to do in this age of AI.
Yeah, I can certainly see that happening in a lot of instance states. Sometimes also because some people might be overworked. And that leads me to our next question. It's fairly across the board, real estate teams are being asked to do more with less. How do you manage the tension between cutting costs and still investing in spaces to support productivity and retention? And what's the role of data in making those decisions?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely growing pressure to do more with less. I think it's a general trend, but specifically, like you mentioned, within the real estate teams, because you can generate substantial savings there, right? Again, this is one of the top spends if you're an organization, if you're a corporate. But as I mentioned, on the flip side, you want your real estate to facilitate your employees' productivity to the fullest, to be able to draw top talent, retain top talent. So you want to spend money on your real estate. You don't want to be sitting in some old shack, right? So there is like an inherent tension here, right? On one hand, cutting costs, but on the other hand, spending that money. And again, the key here, like I mentioned before, is to know where you want to spend that money, where that money, when it's spent, makes the most impact, and that's where data comes into play. That's where you want the data to tell you that. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as it sounds, because to do so, you need to bring in data from many different data sources of different types, which is a challenge for sure. So
you've also talked about the need and complexity of pulling together the data to make smart workplace decisions. What's holding most companies back from using this data effectively, and what needs to change to make it truly actionable?
Yeah, indeed. Like I mentioned, the challenge is to bring in that data, and the challenge is because there's many different data sources of many different types. Some legacy systems, some more advanced with advanced APIs. You want to bring in a very wide variety of data, like enterprise data coming from your HR and your finance department. You want to bring in facility data, coming from your IWMS, your CMMS, your BMS, and some additional acronyms as well. You want to bring in sensor data, right? Like occupancy, indoor air quality, noise, light levels, and so on. but you also want to bring external data like weather, commute. The list goes on and on and on, and that's what makes the challenge so real. Um, Very often the data is siloed, not meant to be shared across other data sources. Very often, if the data exists, it may be owned by different teams across the organizations that you need them to cooperate with you in getting access to this data. So yeah, bringing in all that data, normalizing it, making it usable, is typically, because of all this, very time consuming, and as a result, very expensive. But that needs to change. That can change. The integration of the data, we need to bring it to a point where it's literally one click of a button at zero time and at zero cost. It's possible.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's definitely that shift, and there are lots of organizations that are taking that on board, but perhaps more could. If you could rewrite one corporate real estate convention overnight, be it desk assignments, lease terms, or even ergonomic standards, what radical change would you make to instantly unleash massive value?
Yeah, no, I love that question. Yeah, I think I would urge to introduce much greater flexibility within the facility management and real estate contracts and agreement, to allow the real estate teams to actually take quicker actions to react to data and not be locked in, because the contract says so, right? So for example, right, if the data shows that next week, I'm not gonna need as much cleaning on a Monday, and I won't need as many sandwiches on a Friday. I should be able to act on that data and to actually not bring in as many cleaning services or as many sandwiches, and not, spend the money, or actually spend the money to my actual needs, right? Or, if my data shows that, the number of people predicted to come in next week will only occupy 3 of my 7 floors. I need the ability to open up only those 3 floors, meaning, right, no HVAC, no cleaning, no maintenance, no catering on those other 4 floors. But I need to be able to open up those 3 floors in the best way possible, right? To make the people that do come in as effective as possible, right? So enabling them to sit together as a team, or to, the group together the teams that are most productive together. So again, it's a fine line there, but I've been in product a lot of my professional career, and in product, agility and agile is the bread and butter, where you quickly release a feature and iterate and improve it. I think that's what we need to enable the real estate teams as well, right? To be much more agile, to be quicker on their feet, reacting to data. That will enable them to be both much more cost effective on one side, but I think also improve significantly the employee experience and productivity.
Well, that's been a whirlwind of insights from you, Shahar. Thank you very much for giving us some of your depth of knowledge into some of the things that really move the needle in corporate real estate, and cutting through a lot of the noise that unfortunately is wafting around. So thank you very much for your time. I know that a lot of the listeners will be really interested in what you've shared. Thank you.
Yeah, Ben, thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed this a lot, and I hope the viewers and listeners will find this interesting as well, and contributing our as much as we can to clarifying the noise out there. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. I'm sure they will. So what did we learn? Energy efficiency is visible, but space and people drive the real ROI. You don't need more data. You need usable data across silos. Real estate strategy should be agile, not anchored to outdated contracts. Ask better questions. Are we spending where it matters or just where we always have? And I think the big unlock, flexibility. Adapt your space, your services, and your spend to match real-time needs. Massive thanks to Shahar for breaking it down. This is Quick Cuts, short episodes, sharp insights, no filler. Catch you next time. You've been listening to the Climate Gap Quick Cuts. If you're building in climate tech, subscribe to hear more from the people making it happen.